response. Some things I did take out, some things I did reduce. The exercise really isn't necessarily to advocate from the principal or director's perspective to add things, but I thought it would be a good idea for you to see the process that we went through and some of the reasoning behind not moving some of these positions forward or some of these requests forward. So I'm going to start with the high school, Dr. Mayo. And Danielle, you can pull that up. Thanks. So you have your proposals that you gave to me, your rationale behind them, and then I can chime in why we took them out.
I looked at the dean students position. Last year I had 12 suspensions. This year so far I have 41. Standard. I do discipline. As today's a quick example, from 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. I can't do anything else. This year has been the hardest as an administrator that I've ever had. I'm actually in education. I started in 1999. So I was looking for some help. I know, no, not an assistant principal, but teacher, dean of students is a teaching district teacher department. That's my hope was. In the only high school I know along the East Coast that's not that many for a dean student. Putnam has 29 more students than I have right now. They have an AP. So that's why I looked at it. NEAS stipend. We're going into one of the steps of NEAS this coming year. So there's some notice that they sent me a letter outlining what they're looking for. So that is the 50,000 was kind of a ballpark. The idea that was only get everything done this year, but get everything done for the next year afterward too, when they start doing their business. So that's really what that was 50,000, 25 is that will work. And then the scheduling professional development, we're in the process of aligning our schedules with a couple of different with QBCC and with a couple of other avenues. So we're looking at our pathways. I've been working with staff over the last two months to smooth over the transition for next year. All lines of that transition, there's some additional materials that I was looking for, as well as possibly another speaker. We don't really need the other speaker now. Originally, I put that in. I had asked the staff if they wanted another speaker after conducting the professional development myself. They don't feel like another speaker is necessary, so that's fine. Cutting that down as well. That's really what my three.
Okay, and I don't disagree with Dr. Mayo that a dean of students would be a nice addition to the high school. Certainly would give Dr. Mayo some opportunities to go into the classroom, observe instruction. That's what he's supposed to be doing, but he is bogged down with a lot of discipline up at the high school. And, you know, it's contacting parents and making sure there's a lot of follow through. However, I didn't put it forward in the budget. Primarily because I want to see what the Alliance grant will do this year. Remember that we were funded for 2 years in a row for $200,000. We've used some of that money last year and this year for the culinary arts room. If they fund us at the same level, I'm hoping that there would be some monies there that we might be able to use some grant funding for that particular position. It's not off the table for discussion, but I just wanted everyone to know I didn't think it was, it's important, but I didn't think adding it to this year's budget, since we have to absorb 4 other positions, was prudent. The NEAS stipends, they do have to start that work, and it does mean teacher time. I just took the amount that Dr. Mayo put forward and I reduced that by half. We can do some of that work this summer and then the other half the summer after that. And then the same thing with the scheduling, although we are starting some of that professional development this year. So there'll be some money set aside for the summer so that teachers can work on that scheduling. Remember, we're trying to align our schedule with Putnam, which means we're going into a block type of instructional period. And there is some PD that's associated with that kind of configuration. So I don't know if anybody has questions of Dr. Mayo or me on just the high school.
Where was the line item for the dean of students? I'm trying to scan for it. and I
We
just-
didn't put
just-
it in.
Okay, it
It's
wasn't,
been-
it was never even in it. Okay.
No.
And so what kind of number would we be thinking if? it
Probably
were to be up?
100,000,
What was it?
100,000,
That would take up half of the Alliance grant. If
correct,
they funded us the same amount.
correct. You know, depending on who took the position, but I always spitball that amount so that it covers benefits and then salary.
No,
Um,
I know that
But
it seems like obviously there's been a lot of discipline needed at the high school presently. Would it be possible that this person could maybe be a district person and not just high school? Or do you think that really it would just be a high school thing?
I
I'm
think
just
it's-
wondering if their stuff would ebb and flow depending upon
I
the
think there's
students
enough-
that are there that year, you know?
Yeah, I think there's enough help at the middle school. Remember, there's an assistant principal, 2 guidance counselors, full-time nurse, half-time psychologist. So I think the middle school is got good coverage. The high school, we did remove the assistant principal and that was only part-time. But you know, even if we could do a part-time situation where it's a part-time dean of students and a part-time teacher, but at this point, I didn't put it forward. It's not something that's off the table or off the discussion between Dr. Nail and myself, but right now I just believe that the budget can't sustain it. So,
I know roles have probably changed over the years, but where do you? When I was here years ago, I mean, guidance counselors played more of that active role. As a disciplinary, mediator and all that, does that still happen or?
But they can't, they're not supposed to meet out discipline if they're guidance counselor, they have to be in the role. Allowing their assistant principal.
Okay, sorry, so that's what really matter.
So even if they did stuff, I would then have to step in and do the disciplinary piece.
Got you.
So, and the problem is, I mean, between lunches, which is what I probably have to do too.
Right.
Because we're down staff, and I mean, the other day, I had to cover health teaching, I was sub teacher, so I'm not never a principal.
So-
At least last year I was, this year. no.
Which is an issue because we're trying to move things
Yeah.
forward,
So
so,
we're stagnant.
right. Second part, maybe it's for, maybe our Board of Ed meeting, but. You don't have to answer anything, but a lot of these repeat, offenders, is it something that we need to do? Really?
that's a challenging group coming up from 8th grade. And, we had high discipline issues last year.
Yeah.
They continue to flow up at the high school, so. We're working on it, we've added positions at the high school, remember. We have 1 full-time guidance counselor, we have a full-time social worker, we have a full-time student support coordinator. And a principal. And like I said, the discussion isn't off the table, but at this moment in time, I just feel like if we can get some grant funding for that. It's a discussion we should have.
So is there a lesser role? That we should be considering, if the dean of students is off the table, is there something else that we can do as a Board of Ed? To support the administration so they can do what they're hired to do? Is there a middle ground is all?
I don't think at this time, we have to work with the students and their families and start to reduce those.
No,
out-of-school
I mean, is there a
suspensions.
role that we can add that we can absorb financially? Versus a full-blown dean of students is.
We could add a part-time one. And that could, and maybe that's what's gonna happen. Maybe there'll only be enough grant money maybe to hire someone part-time. And that would be something that we would have to consider if we get funding again. I'm just waiting to see. As it is, we haven't gotten the check for this year, so I'm a little chumpy about thinking ahead that we might definitely get that 200,000. It did,
When is that?
it took a lot to get the 200,000, so.
Whenever the state's ready, I guess.
They're voting on all that alliance stuff like in this session.
There's a
so.
proposed bill to also increase it too.
To what?
One, there didn't have a number stated, but there is a proposed bill that was sent to the committee to review about increasing the Alliance
Yeah.
grant funding as well.
Yeah.
Dr. Mayo,
Yes.
what are the bulk of the offenses that you're seeing?
We've had borderline bullying. We had some legal things with the state police that we had to deal with as well, so we've had escalated to that level. I mean, water bottles, throwing water bottles on kids' heads, it's been a little bit nuts, to be honest with you.
Day-to-day
Yeah,
vaping.
the level, it's no longer like, hey, on the phone class, actually, no, it's not like that, we're way past that. It's things, if I could, on top of the 41, I've also myself, my teachers have had detentions too. I myself with 34 after school detention students, that's when they go to the teacher, they don't make the teachers want to whatever, they stay with me. So on top of 41, also 34 after school detentions, I try to keep that as much as I can, but the level of infraction is so high.
What's the percentage hitting the JRB?
All the ones that have to do with the legal piece, like when the state police got involved with us this year, those have all been forwarded down to jail. That's.
Because I recently on Thursday, at United Services, I serve on the board there, the mental health board, and they have the legislative meeting with all the legislators. And one of the things that's coming up is exactly what you're talking about, is the behavioral complications coming into the schools, their severities. The numbers are exactly trending like what you talked about. And I'm talking United Services having a result of that based on this. But one of the things that was really highlighted is that with the JRB is when they go to JRB and they're given something to do, there's no tracking if they don't do it, and there's no consequences. And that was a huge thing amongst the legislators about how the JRB works. And I know personally, I have a friend that serves on the JRB, and she said that's the hardest thing too, is you're butting heads with the families, and the kids are now figuring out, if I don't do it, there's no consequences for me to not do it. So a lot of what you're talking about is related to this cycle of funding and all the stuff that's happening relative to the JRB being supported, because the severity of the numbers is trending exactly like you're saying, 3 to 4 times the amount of complications. And I'm sure you can't do your job with these numbers. So it's not just us, but I think it's a trickle down effect that's affecting a lot of the other things. So the legislators did hear that about, particularly for funding, the funding thing. They know they have to do something about it, but that doesn't really solve our problem here. It's just, how do we get parents on board with the fact that when these kids are handed down stuff, the severity of it?
I think that's the question
Yeah.
now, is are you getting parental support, or is it?
No, they,
It's some are, some aren't. And to your point, I know, Principal Gatto serves at JRB, and I know that, unfortunately, they don't know. One of the situations that had happened in Massachusetts, where I came from, the child would have been, the child would have faced legal things, but in the state of Connecticut, they kicked it down to JRB, and it turned into a, hey, why don't we just look at how much screen time, how much would, and it was egregious. The situation was really disgusting, but that's kind of how it went down too, which is sad. So that's just showing the kid, well, if I do it, don't worry about it, because, they're gonna kick it down to a point that they're gonna tell me I should do something. But there's been, I asked, we have Haley for our school social worker, that's us on that council, I said, hey, when is that coming up? When are they gonna do a check-in on that student? Oh, I have no idea, they live on. Oh, okay. That's great.
it's really a fail. The system is failing. It's the JRB system is failing. And I think at the state level, they're starting to recognize, based on, people like United Services and the people that are dealing with the mental health side of the trickle down of how it's actually affecting everybody.
I think the original idea behind developing the local JRBs was, valuable, but they also, the members on that council or that committee also don't have any teeth behind that. And so if a student or a family doesn't follow through on what's been asked of them, there really isn't a consequence. So, it goes full scale, but we've got to worry about Turtle Out Memorial High School. And so, that's what we're trying to really focus on. But Kim, I know, goes to JRB, and I know the other principals go when they're called. It's frustrating at best because we don't see any turnaround or any improvement in those behaviors. But we're not going to solve it here tonight. But I do agree with Dr. Mayo that, it does take a great deal of his time.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
I think it's really a necessary position. Could you put together kind of a job description? Because as this goes on, I'll suggest we put it back in, because you can't do your job if you're doing this stuff, right? And even if it's part-time, I would just like to see a job description, how it would work, and then I'll be the one to try to put it back in. But just one thing, and this, maybe it's just me, can we call it something other than dean of students? Only because it makes it sound like a private school and we're asking for a little much, maybe assistant principal, truant officer, whatever you want to call it, but it's just, maybe it's me, not.
No, it's the
No,
optics of it,
you're right.
for the
Right,
community that we're in
The,
here.
the community will look at it. But
I tried to keep on that teacher line, so it didn't have to get like
Yeah.
administrator pay. or anything.
absolutely, and I understand what you're saying and what you're doing, it's just the perception. And it's, but I'll support it, but just give me something that I can defend it, okay?
Okay, middle school. So in Kim's proposal, why don't you talk about what you had put forward?
So as you know, being the Alliance District, our math scores are below where they need to be. And we do have a very rigorous new program that the teachers are following. Patty Schneill and I meet very regularly, and we go over the needs of what exactly the kids need for them to succeed and get even just caught up from the things that we see from COVID and just in general, the rigor of what the math content is asking at each level. So as in with our reading special, the reading specialist, we have great results when we see that instruction in smaller group and specialized instruction. So, that is my job, to look at the data and see where we can make improvements. So to add a math interventionist at the middle level and to get as many kids caught up and, at grade level, because a significant amount are not on grade level. The more we invest into the kids and their math capability and more achieving the level is when they come up to the high school, that's just more that they're able to retain, move on and pursue, right? Especially in math. At this age especially, kids start realizing and think, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at that. And so we want to get that small group instruction. It's hard for teachers to do that with everything that's going on. They need that extra time, they need that extra grouping, that extra expertise, and to how to dissect and break things down, to tear it to the level. So that would be why we need a math interventionist, just to support our teachers, to support our students, to have the mindset that they can achieve math. It's very rigorous, as you know. It's very much, math is now, even more so in reading. It's all reading based. So, and it's not easy. So kids definitely really struggle in middle level.
Kim, what do you do now if somebody's just not grasping it?
So,
if you don't have that
Yeah.
position, how are we trying to bring them along?
well, luckily we do have amazing teachers who will stay after school and help our kiddos that need it. We do also this past year, we integrated what was called discovery period, not so much in 5th grade. They kind of do it on their own, but for 6th, 7th, and 8th, 1 day a week extra kids are getting math content and going to that math teacher. But it's hard, and you know, if we had that extra person that could go in and just, you know, like we do for literacy, and to build that stamina and how to break down questions and the math tools based on our IXL, and based on our unit measures in which the curriculum we're following, it'll, you know, just help those kiddos even more.
What was the dollar amount?
Well, again, it would be a teacher salary,
So thinking that type of teacher, you'd be looking at somebody at near top scale. And then obviously, benefits. The thing about that is we had a math interventionist years ago when I first started. We had a hard time maintaining people in that position. So finding somebody with experience. We do have Patty Chenille. She's our curriculum leader. She's doing work with curriculum. She's assisting the teachers help students in the classroom. She's also an interventionist at the elementary, and she's training starting in another month, all the special educators, so that they can do some math intervention. So we're really using Patty to the extent that, you know, we're hoping that she can train other teachers. At the middle level, it's a little different. And we've always known we've needed someone at that level. At this moment in time, I feel like, you know, if we look down the road and there's some more funding that comes from the state, that would be one of the things that I would recommend we put in, is a math interventionist at the middle school. I think at the elementary, the plan to have the special educators be trained in the program that Patty has been participating in professional development now for 2 years. I think that's going to be a big boost for the elementary. But I think for the middle level, there is that gap. And the student, Kim's right, the students are falling behind. They've done what they can. The teachers are doing what they can after school. They try to pull together some flexible grouping, and then they have that discovery period once a week. But in an ideal world, I would love to see that position. So you know, I think keeping our eye on what's going to happen with the grants, and then maybe be able to fund that as we move along. Is it something we need? Of course it is.
So I guess here's where I'm coming from. We made great strides the last time we had a NEASC accreditation program come through, right? The evaluations. Are any of these 2 positions so far going to affect us when we go for our NEASC again? And so it's one of those, do we budget for this now? Because it's only gonna come back to bite us, you know, when the tests come back, but not the evaluation. Because I'm sure this is gonna be looked at by the NEASC team.
Well, math scores will be looked at the high school for certain. We're working with the state now because we're an opportunity district, and those math scores at the middle level are being looked at.
Right.
They've been giving us some advice on how to address that. They're not coming with a pocketbook though. And that's unfortunate, because being an opportunity district, you would think that there would have been some funding behind that. That hasn't happened, and maybe when Senator Gordon is here, we can talk to him about that. You know, I wanted you to understand that I do agree we need a math interventionist, but we have 4 positions that are on grant, on the ARP grant that money's going away, and we have to absorb those 4 positions first, and then take a look at these 2 others.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the average class size in math, or I guess in general in middle school?
Anywhere from, you know, whatever the class size is, so anywhere from 21 to 26.
To me, this would be I know we need to update our curriculum, but to me, this would be an absolutely necessary position.
Well, it's not, Patty's not just updating the curriculum, remember, she's working with teachers to help the kids. in
Well, I'm not
class.
saying Patty should do it. I mean, this position is a critical position.
It is.
I know me at that age even. I'm not gonna tell you how many years ago that was. I can't do math. I had that attitude. I couldn't do math.
But if we look at the budget impact when Bill gets to it,
Oh,
that's
I
my issue.
understand that. I understand
So
that.
do we have solid numbers around these two, or at least something to look at financially?
So we always figure around 100,000 between salary, top step salary, which is around what, 83 we talked about today, plus benefits, there's
So
your
200,000
100,000.
between these two.
Right.
Okay, all right,
So if we get the Alliance grant, we could fund these.
We
right.
could fund one.
Right.
Well, one,
But then we still have the other 4 positions.
That are in this budget.
yeah.
They're, okay, so they're, all right,
Which could all run out over time.
right.
But this, we might be better served with more professional development and teaching the teachers
Mhm.
and see how that works initially, rather than bringing in
Well,
another
that's true.
position that we could lose. It's still gonna be expensive and it's gonna take time.
But
But-
I thought I heard she was only doing the elementary school.
Oh, she's still, oh no, she's still working with all the other teachers. She's been working with them with CPM. We brought in professional development for the middle school teachers. Matter of fact, they did that this summer. They took 20 hours of PD. So they are working hard to improve their craft.
Unless we gotta do more of it. I mean, it's like reading, unless they grasp the concept, they're gonna be lost forever.
Mhm.
So they need. I mean, reading is so important, but so are these basic math skills
Right.
that. Yeah,
And if Patty,
we have good teachers, maybe they just need help teaching or explaining concepts. I don't know, I'm not a teacher, but.
and what we found is the gaps are being created at the middle level because the foundational skills at the elementary haven't been secured.
And then they're gonna show up in the high school, and that's where NEAS comes in.
Right.
And I'd just like to add too, like, sometimes things may not need to necessarily be there forever. But right now, what we see at the middle level, to get them caught up and to get that, you know, because we have this new scope and sequence and we have this regular CPM curriculum, it's a lot, you know, and so, and with the push of kids going into math, you know, for industries looking for math and professionals, you know, we owe it to our kids to try to set them up for success, and so that's why I put that in here. Sure. So, thank you.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because
Yeah.
think of a company, and if you have a bad product or a product that is failing. So our product is the students coming up, and if our product in the early years, we don't correct something, by the time it gets to the next level, it's compounded. So that's why when I was saying about NEAS, to what Bill was saying, if we're not gonna support it here, it's only gonna hit us in a couple of years when NEAS comes at the high school level, so.
What are those other 4 positions that may expire with grants?
So the social worker at the high school. Patty's position.
Yeah.
The circulation specialist that circulates books not only here at the middle school, but also at the elementary. She runs ragged. And what's the 4th one?
There were 2 middle school math teacher positions, one, at least on my little list here. Was the high school social worker, the middle school, elementary school media center, a middle school math teacher, and then a 6th grade math.
Oh, the 6th grade teacher is for class size reduction. So we added back a 6th grade teacher 3 years ago using the grant money. We were gonna cut down that team and raise class sizes. You know, I had a conversation with the union president, and one of the things about raising class sizes, she said 20 years ago when she had 27 kids in her classroom, and she called up a parent and said, your child's being disruptive in class. That was the last she had the last phone call she had to make, right? Because parents were very engaged, they took care of that. And so having 27 students in her classroom wasn't that much of an impact. Now, if you put that many students in a classroom and you're asking the teacher to put behavior plans in place and all of this, and you're not getting support at home, then that will be overwhelming. And, you know, it may come to the fact that we're going to have a serious conversation around, depending on what happens with this budget, monies and staffing, right? So you have to look at class size. And that's the last thing I want to change. And believe me, we don't run classes with only a few kids anymore like we used to when I first came up to high school with, there were stories that there were 4 kids. That doesn't happen anymore. Those classes are around 22, 18 to 22, a little higher in some classes at the middle school, but most of our classes are running that size.
But we've always, and I've been here for a long time, we've always tried to keep class sizes around 25. And when it got bigger in the elementary school, we added teachers, we tried to support the teachers as much as we can. And I know it fluctuates, sometimes it'll be higher, sometimes it'll be lower, but big classes are just as bad as little ones. And out of these positions, I certainly don't want to rank anything that what's more important, because they're all important, and the ones we don't have are important. But we really should talk about the circulation specialist, a social worker. Are these more important than a math interventionist? Are these more important than an assistant principal for the high school? I think that's an important thing that this board has got to talk about. It's
Well, the social worker is critical based on the mental health issues we have up at the high school. I mean, that is a critical.
I'm sure they're all important.
And Patty's role in the district, if we don't keep her in that role, we might as well just forget about it. We're not going to make any kind of leverage in mathematics. She is the little engine that could behind us making good strides in instructional practice changes, curriculum revision. So those two things, a circulation specialist isn't going to cover the cost of a teacher. She hardly makes that because she's not a certified teacher. So she's spread thin, but if we don't let kids circulate books, then what?
On top of that, Woodstock does not currently have one, so their teachers, instead of getting their prep time during what would be media center, essentially do media with their kids, so they're not getting the prep that they need at Woodstock.
Well, that is a contractual thing.
That's my contract.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know how they work that.
Right, but that's what's happening, because they haven't had one all year.
Yeah, so I mean, that definitely is a conversation to have. We just, I believe those 4 positions are critical, and these 2 add-ons. I would, if you were to say to me, okay, you can only have 1, I'd go with the math interventionist all day long. Not that I don't think the high school doesn't need that help, but I just worry about our kids and their math achievement. I do worry about behavior. And I don't know if Abby and Haley, the support coordinator and the social worker, can give more assistance to discipline to Dr. Mayo. And I will say this, Dr. Jones has offered to assist when he can. Of course, he's bogged down with PPT meetings, but he has offered his assistance to Dr. Mayo.
Trying to help.
Are we able to integrate any of the very savvy math students in the high school? Coordinate them to be,
They do that in peer tutoring.
how many are under that program now helping out?
There's a whole isn't it a mentoring?
Well, no, there's 2 things, there's peer tutoring, which is something that I know we do across high school, middle school. The Tiger Buddies is between the high school and elementary. So there's 2 separate programs, because the Tiger Buddies is less about tutoring, more about building relationships, and social emotional. The peer tutoring is something that's run simultaneously, as we're just by the same people, but Tiger Buddies. It's run with the middle school and the high school. So I don't know who's on what caseload. I do know we have somewhere around 18 peer tutors. I just don't know who's assigned to what people.
And how many would be assigned to math programs? Are
Not a
they
ton.
specific like that or no?
Yeah, not a huge amount, because they would have to base them for the classes or whatever. I know we have a lot more English and writing than we have math, but I would say probably somewhere around 6 or 7 math. specific. The rest would be English writing. that type of stuff.
You know, it's sad, but how do you get the parents engaged? I mean, it starts at home. I mean, we're making great strides. We're doing this, but. If you don't have the parents' support, I mean, some of these positions, I mean, I know the parents and everybody in town is. Why are you spending this on the school? Why are you spending this? Well, part of it is the disciplinary situations with the kids. If the parents would step up and be a parent. And yes, this is Tom Angelo saying it, and anybody wants to say anything to me.
Comes down to accountability.
Yeah, it's accountability and respect. I mean, you come to school to learn. You're not coming to school to be the thug. I mean, it's almost like you want to bring the parents and the kids in front of us and say, you want your tax rate to go down?
Well,
You know, it's
think-
like,
I think
God,
some of
Be a
it,
parent.
I think some of it too is our families are hurting too. And
We're
they
all
have their
hurting,
own, they
you know what I
have their
mean?
own mental health issues, so.
You know, I mean, I hear, I mean, and maybe I'm gonna go off on a tangent here, but we had mental health issues when we were in school too. Okay, everybody has a mental health issue. Our society today is so coddling. It's unbelievable. And I know we have to do what we have to do. I get it. But it's just, we've created a society of, what are you gonna do for me?
Okay. now,
I know, and
Let's
I
get back
just
to the
said, I
meeting.
apologize, I'm gonna go on a tangent, but it's
Okay, well,
gotta
let's,
start at home. I'm sorry.
okay,
Melinda, just really back, we have so many colleges around us. Do we do any programs with college students that are coming up through teaching or anything like that? You
Yes,
get,
we have a psychologist that's interning now with one of our school psychologists. So we do get the benefit from having those folks intern here. It gives extra support, obviously, to the school, and we don't pay for that, and they get good experience. So we do have one this year, and we're happy that we have that extra person here. And we've been reaching out for more students to come in. We've had over the past few years, more student teaching here. And so Eastern in particular reaches out to us on a regular basis for student teachers. So I'm excited about that. Danielle and I are trying to work on expanding that with other universities and colleges. But that is good experience for the students and the cooperating teacher. And then we also get the bang for having extra assistance here in school. So
because I thought
That's a win.
WPI does some of the math ones, so that's why I asked.
those are tricky to get, even if we had a bag of money, there's no guarantee
son,
we're even gonna get a program teacher.
But that's, that's.
It is. So the next one is the elementary. Larry, actually.
no,
put
we
in-
didn't do the professional.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're feeding.
Oh, that's all right. Move on to
We took that one out primarily because that's work that she wants to do at her school specifically. And we've got a bunch of things going on next year that I feel like we should focus on.
Yeah, by and large, the elementary school is just maintaining the programs that they currently have. Dibbles is something that Lindsay Colarco, the reading specialist, put in there. We're required by the state of Connecticut to screen all kids K-3, so that's a fairly big ticket item, a little over $8,000, but that'll be absorbed by a Title I grant. So that's the big ticket item. But I did write a few notes down, just a shout out to Laura Stefanski and Patty Chanel, the curriculum coordinators. So the new mandates require that every school district in the state of Connecticut have a reading curriculum that focuses on the science of reading. So we have the Wonders curriculum, but it's a little outdated. So you'll see some of the items in the elementary school budget are the newer items for the Wonders reading curriculum. But she's worked She's worked tirelessly with the elementary teachers to make sure they're ordering the appropriate things. Patty Chenille, to everybody's point, everybody brought Patty Chenille up today. Has done a tremendous job with respect to the math curriculum. She has worked, I mean, really, really hard with the teachers, ensuring that every single teacher orders exactly what they need at the elementary level. And even putting stuff like tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 sort of intervention materials in their budget. So, you know, those universal, whatever teachers can't teach the kids universally, they'll at least have curriculum materials to help those kids out tier 2 and tier 3 instruction. And of course, we'll continue to leverage Teague with Jill Burbo, the attendance team. We still work I mean, it's not in the budget, but we still work hand in hand with Jill Burbo. She does a great job. But that's by and large just maintaining programs at the elementary.
And that is written into Title I. That's a software upgrade so that they can, when they're doing reading assessments on students, they'll be able to do it more efficiently. And then develop and download lots of different kinds of reports. So we're happy about that. Thanks, Larry. So Mr. Birch.
So to start off with, we didn't put an awful lot into this budget this year, just because the cost of just doing business and keeping the doors open every day has increased so much over the past 3 years. That in and of itself was a tremendous increase. So just as an example, a case of toilet paper has gone from $26 to $46. Cleaning supplies, every single thing we purchase has gone up double digits. And on top of that, the labor, all of my vendors, everybody that we use for anything here, their costs have obviously gone up, so their labor costs have gone up, and now everybody is charging us a travel charge. $80, $100, $150 just to come out here. So with that, we put very little in the budget this year. When you look at these things, you know, we took the professional development out this year. Michelle's done a great job getting us some professional development for free through our insurance carriers. And that, so we didn't have to have anything that we could see that we were going to need to pay for. That's really kind of short money. Floor machine. So we bought a floor machine last year, right on floor machine. It cut labor down this summer tremendously. And the thought was another one. First, we could have drag races, but besides that, with another one, we could cut that labor down again, maybe eliminate some overtime. But it's not critical. We can still keep the doors open with what we've got. Water bottle stations, we shut all of the water fountains off at the beginning of COVID. That was one of the very first things they said, you got to shut the water fountains down. So we did. Since then, we've looked at it, and first of all, if I brought them back online now, they probably need to be replaced because they've been sitting for going on 3 years now. The other thing is that we're trying to get away from water fountains as a germ spreader and use water bottles. Water bottle filling stations are about $1,000 a piece. I put in 3 last year. I just put in 1 this past week that's going to be in the high school cafeteria. Actually, is part of the new culinary arts area. We put that in. But I would say there's probably still another 30, 35 throughout the facility that are just shut off. So the idea is to try to replace them a few at a time. We were hoping to do 10 or 11 this year. So we reduced that to 4. And in time, we'll eventually get them all done. The playground repair is obviously a hot topic. Has been since we closed the playground over a year ago. Superintendent Smith managed to get a $10,000 grant. That $50,000 is the cost to repair the existing playground, not build a new one, not replace it with newer equipment, that's to repair it so we can open it again. It's pretty important that we get that playground open at some point. And you know, the high school, the hallway and the locker painting, as everybody keeps alluding to the fact we're gonna have a NEAS accreditation in a couple of years. We've done pretty good recently. We got the locker rooms done last year, which was mentioned 10 years ago when they were here. We got that done. We got new floors in the high school hallways last year. That helps. But you know, every time you put something shiny on the floor, and then you look up, and then the rest of it really looks even that much worse. So those lockers, just like everything else, they go back to 1986. You can only get so much out of this stuff. And it needs to be replaced, and that holds true facility wide. Well, we have things, there's been an awful lot of discussion in the past month about ongoing maintenance, deferred maintenance, things that we should have done that we never did. And it always comes down to just two things: you need time and you need money. And if you don't have either one of those things, then what you do is you keep the doors open, you keep the lights on, and that's about it.
The one thing that Bill is looking into, and we are going to do this, both Bills and I, is put the custodial supplies out for bid. To see if we can get some more competitive pricing. So Bill are in the process of putting together a list of everything we use and then putting it out there and seeing if we can get a better price.
Do we do group buying with the town?
We haven't.
I mean, obviously, we'd probably be the biggest user of stuff, but. I mean, every little bit. You know. Maybe.
Or co-oping with another district for bigger buying power.
So East Con used to do that, but the district pulled away from that because there wasn't any real savings.
Okay.
And at this point, I think that it's been a while since we've gone out to bid for custodial supplies, so. And considering that toilet paper is going up $20 a case, I think it's prudent of us to do that now. And hope to save some money there, or maybe even just manage the budget we have, but. No, we're being careful, and the custodians are being careful about, making sure they're using things and not wasting anything, so.
Are the mandates still there for all the what is it, green?
Oh, yeah.
clean
Yes, they are.
All right, so that's all.
And to that point, to meet those criteria. There's really only about a half a dozen major suppliers that can meet the criteria. The supplier we've been using for, I don't know, 12, 15 years probably. They have a state contract, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York. But anytime you can save a couple of dollars somewhere, it'll help.
So the next one is you, Heather, technology.
Hey, year to year, my budget, I mean, it doesn't really change, but like bills just goes up as the service contracts get more expensive each year. We were able to take the Navion software out because that's going to be covered by Alliance. A chunk of my budget is providing for the district software that we use, not only for the teachers, but like Munis, the cafeteria software, everything we use to function pretty much comes from my budget. And also like the hardware service contracts as well, in order to keep our switches and our Wi-Fi and everything up to date and properly patched for cybersecurity. I was able to take out some Aruba access points. We replaced all of the access points in the high school last year, just because over time, their end of life, they can't update anymore. The technology just keeps evolving so quickly. We have to make sure we keep up with it. But I I'll be able to get that through E-rate funding again this year. I may not be able to get as many as I got last year, but I should get enough to at least do the middle school, so I was able to take that out. The T-Mobile hotspots that we used so often during COVID, we don't need as many now. A lot of parents took advantage of, I know that Spectrum had free Wi-Fi for a little while through the Everyone Learns initiative, so we sent parents that information, so they took advantage of that. And I mean, even like the elementary level, they're not as reliant day to day, even though we are one-to-one, they're not logging on at home every day in elementary. And then I was also able to take out flat panel displays. I was going to do the middle school this year, but I should also be able to secure those through a grant as well. And the other main increases in my budget, it's just Power School this year. It's kind of large, obviously, with do the implementation and the training, and then the current years after that will be this high cost. And also the new teacher evaluation platform, which we weren't paying for before, but we have to, as does every other town in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So
Power School's a heavy lift. They've already started that transition and training, I guess, even 2 months ago,
yeah,
right? Yeah, it's
Yep.
been a while.
We're okay with funding for Chromebook replacements?
yep, I did keep that in my budget, as much as I could to have a healthy cycle each year so that we have enough spares. For student Chromebooks, student laptops in the high school, and teacher laptop rotations.
And where do you transition over the 2 grades that you buy new?
Yeah, so we usually give, like every 4 years, the kids will get a new device. So like pre-K, then 5th grade, they get a new one, and then when they're freshmen, they get a new one.
None of that is available under any of the programs for free. The Chromebooks,
No, not anymore.
because I think Killen, we just got 800 of them for free under one of the federal programs. I'll get you that name,
Yeah.
okay?
Any questions of Heather? I think she's done a really good job. Technology department is well staffed. They're doing a good job at repairing and trying to problem solve things without calling Apex. And I'm really grateful for that and all the hard work that that team has been doing, but it seems to be coming along nicely. And I think the cycle that she's got things on now finally is, thank goodness for all that grant money along the way. But now it just has to be every year at those 3 critical points. So I think they've done a really good job.
That would be my only concern. Do you have enough staff? I mean, everyone has a Chromebook or a computer and
I think we're okay. I mean, it's tough because I kind of feel like, even though Danette's part of our department, she's not really freaking fit. She's data. Bryce is with us 50% of the time, because 50% of the time he's doing A&B. But we have Tyler, who's a part-time technician, and then we have Chris, who took over for Tracy. But again, you have to remember, we're also doing the town too. So, we've got a lot on our plate, but we're managing.
But from my perspective, I mean, and I've been doing this for 40 years, I think it's a well-staffed technology department. And I think they're addressing things quickly for the teachers and for the kids.
that's great. I just think they could probably use another pair of hands, even if it's part-time. But if she's making do, you make them do.
Do you have like high school students that
Yeah.
help?
Yeah, and we usually hire them over the summer too.
That's what I thought.
And we're running esports too.
You have an intern now, right, from the high school?
Yeah, we have Owen.
Okay.
Are they paid?
During the school year, no, but over the summer, yes.
Yes.
About college intern? Maybe, are there any college intern programs, maybe with Nichols or anything?
Yeah, I could look into that. I think QB has reached out to me once.
Yeah.
Kind of didn't hear anything, but I could reach back out to them.
Is Tyler a college student? He looks for a
Sorry, I
part-time.
forget it all.
Oh, okay.
It's like 26. Might be a full-time student. I don't know.
So really in that department, there's 3 full-time, Bryce is almost full-time, right?
Yeah.
And then there's Tyler, who's 24 hours in that department. So, but you are right, Danette is really devoted to data management. And then, okay, Chris, you ready? Well, Chris put in his budget. And we tried to put in to meet all those areas that we always complain about or we always run short. And there's nothing I can say that can disagree or remove that. So he's gonna kind of go over what's been happening in special ed.
Possibly just pull out the slide that I made. Overboard.
I didn't give that to the board first.
All right, pull it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
In years past, I've had, the PowerPoint that's 20 some odd pages long and just to try to showcase the number of staff. That takes to run the department. I apologize that it's that small, but trying to condense it all onto one slide. So Marriott Fisher tried to, showcase the number of staff we have there in the special education department to service right now 92 students that qualify for service. And then at the middle school, same thing, the number of staff servicing 53 students. The high school, number of staff servicing 51 students. And then just off to the side, because I know it's been a question in the past, there's one bus that we utilize for the purposes of special education to bus the students from those 3 buildings that require door-to-door transportation. Okay. And as I move down, the Bradley School Wyndham County program, elementary, we have 1 student, Killingly, middle school, 6 Thompson, 1 Stafford, 1 Plainfield, 1 Putnam, 1 Sterling. High school, we have 7 Thompson, 1 Killingly, 1 Brooklyn, 1 Putnam, for a total of 21 students on site in the Bradley program. And of the 21, 13 are Thompson students. And if you look all the way to the right, 0 transportation for the students coming through Bradley here. The last line in that table, out of district. You get the number of staff for that, but there are 24 students currently out of district. That does include the 13 in Bradley, because they're in the Bradley program, right? So 24 total, and we're using 7 vehicles to transport those 11 other students to make up the 24 students. Okay. Currently 504s, we have 23 at the elementary, we have 20 at the middle school, 31 at the high school, for a total of 74. I did want to just say, based on the last board report, the total out of district number was 27 at that time. And right now it's at 24. So we have decreased that number by 3. Now those 2 pie charts that I have there, I just would like to explain that a little bit. So the one to the left that has the chunk of orange, if you will, and then mostly blue, 75% blue. So the orange represents the transportation if we did not have the Bradley School Wyndham County program here in Thompson. So what I did was, over the last 4 years, I tried to approximate, can't get it exactly. So if you go to the bottom, that trend line in 2019-20, when the Bradley School program started here, we had
We ended up with 8 students in that program. Okay, and then it went up to 12 to 14 to 14. So if we go back to that first year of 1920, 8 students. If we didn't have the program, I was being generous. I said we would need about 3 vehicles to transport those students. Then the following year, I bumped it up to 5, the following year, another 5, the following year, an additional 5. So for transportation, at the rate that we pay, the total for that would have been $1,140,300 in transportation that we would have had to pay. The tuition, and I used an average mean of $70,000 across the 4 years for an outplacement. With the number of students over that 4-year span, that would have been $3,360,000. You go to the pie chart to the right, now,
So Chris, that would have been a $4.5 million.
correct.
So we've had about a 1.14 savings.
Well, it's actually a little bit more. Yeah, you're right.
Just
Yep.
using,
Yeah, I put it in the narrative right below the 2 pie charts. So then you look at that pie chart to the right, you don't see any orange because there's no transportation being assumed by the district because we don't pay for it because they're here on site. So now you're paying, I use an average mean there of about 42,000 for Bradley School. So that cost is 1,344,000. Then my little narrative, Bradley School in the county has provided the district with a cost avoidance over the past 4 years of approximately, as Tom said, $1,140,300 in transportation and $2,016,000 in tuition for a net differential of $3,156,300 for a positive outcome for the district. This also does not factor in the fuel that it would have cost, which is obviously a big factor. We all know what happened there. I didn't factor in if the student needed ESY and if they were outplaced and we didn't have Bradley, or if they needed additional staffing, such as a one-on-one paraprofessional. Just some variables that I can't factor in, but I didn't want to omit them. But again, quite a bit of cost avoidance, if you will, by having the program here. And then there at the bottom, I just added from last year, we had a 5-year trend. I added the 6th year. And you could just see the trajectory that we're on. I believe by the end of this year, it should be tapering off. It's starting to come down now. But I added in that little, the orange in 1920, that's when we added in the Bradley program. So, we had 20 out, but 8 were here, 24 were out, 12 were here, and we're trying to catch that so we have more here than we're sending out. And I think we're clearly on our way to doing just that. Bearing in mind, we're still holding around 24% qualifying for special education. And then the other thing that I just wanted to cover quickly, in years past, when we talk about excess cost, I usually have those 2 slides just to go through that exercise. And again, we just used an average out of district placement of $70,000. The transportation, another $62,000. You add those up, it's $132,000. It's combined for excess cost. The excess cost threshold for this year is at $97,709. Okay, so you have to hit that number with tuition and transportation combined. So by hitting that number, subtract that from the 132, that gives you $35,291. That's the differential. The state reimbursement is at 76% of anything over that $97,000 threshold. which was 35,000, so you get 76%. Okay, so you're gonna get back $26,821. So the net cost for the student that is outplaced, that's not here in Bradley, would still cost us $106,178. They're here in the Bradley program. Over the 4 years, $42,000 for tuition, no transportation. Total is 42,000. Excess cost threshold is 97, but we didn't hit that threshold. So 0. Well, state reimbursement 76%, doesn't matter. We never exceeded that amount. So our net cost is $42,000. So when you look at the two examples, 106 without Bradley, 42 with Bradley, that differential is $64,178.
I think we just found our math tutor as well.
I'm good, this is
So clearly the program's working financially. It's beneficial, you name it, vehicle wise.
I mean, it has a lot of pros. It's not perfect by any stretch, right? Right, and when you have a lot of students with a lot of needs and you put them in one room, like a melting pot, you gotta be careful. Takes one to change the dynamic of the program, right? So we try to be mindful, and at the same time, as we look at data, if we have the ability to fade out support and start to move them along so we can regain that student, we do that. So again, the number has dropped from 27 last month to 24. And I talked to Superintendent Smith. We're looking at getting close to 21, very, very soon. And I talked to Mr. Steglitz as well. So, things are moving in the right direction. You have to weather the storm there for a while. Most importantly, our job is to do right by the students we have. Sometimes it can be costly, but things always work out in the end.
So our trend lines, this right now, we're at 23.9% of our students are
Correct. As of the last.
the last meeting.
Yes,
Not including 504s.
not including 504s ever, that's Gen A.
What is 504 then?
Section 504 is a discriminatory clause, so I like to use the example. I break my hand, you're a teacher, I can't use the pencil sharpener you have in the room. So for me to sharpen my pencil, can I have an electric pencil sharpener? And you say no. Well, how do I sharpen my pencil? You're kind of discriminating against me because I have this
Okay,
health issue. So you would write a 504 plan, so I can still access the curriculum and be successful.
It's all about accommodations, right?
Correct.
okay.
Correct.
So with our 23.9. Since you started, we've been probably around that 21 to 23 range.
Yes.
Do you see any trend line of this increasing? And if so, do we have the ability to increase a Bradley program to at least contain our or stay kind of flat with where we are right now?
When we put the program in, part of the proposal with the state was we could assume 40 students on this campus through the program, right? Okay.
Total, not
Total.
counting Thompson students.
Total.
Okay.
With the neighboring districts that you have here. A big issue with this number is speech, and we're trying to reduce some of that. So students that qualify for speech only, we're looking at those numbers and trying to exit students when they're ready. That's a high number, to be honest with you. So we've been very cognizant of that. So I only see the number, if anything, starting to trickle downward rather than go up. But again, it's a very transient district. Students are in and out.
Right, and as you said, one student with with needs, all of a sudden, everything's out of whack.
Right, we don't pick and choose who we get, right? But we certainly do our best to make sure we are providing you know, what they need to be successful, period.
But our staff level right now can handle for what enrollment, I guess, maybe that's what I'm.
Our Thompson staff or the Bradley staff?
The Bradley staff right now that we have, we can go to 40. We don't have the staff to support 40, right? That would require further staff.
So it's totally on them, staff their the rooms accordingly. We actually have another room available for if there's a spillover, if they needed extra space. We do have that. We're fortunate enough to have that. But they're looking to increase their leave of teachers as we speak. But the problem is getting quality people. Stop everywhere.
Then you do a better job identifying, you shoot yourself in the foot, you need more.
Right, that's right, yeah. From.
Do you think a hard copy of this to the Board of Finance to show them, you know,
Oh,
what
yeah.
we're doing to reduce it? Would
One
be
for
a good
Mr. Warren.
idea.
Well, this should, just saying ahead that this should be part of that, did you know, I mean, because this is what has been, a highlight.
Well, this is half the reason why we're surviving, I think, with
Right.
all our high special ed population. If we didn't have it, we'd
Why?
be completely in the red,
I
you
tell
know?
Chris that all the time, that hadn't he come and hadn't he put in the Bradley program, I don't know where we would be at this moment in time.
We'd be completely upside down.
It would be completely upside down.
We'd
But
have no supplies, we'd have no new books, we'd have
Right.
nothing new
Bring your
in
own
this
toilet
place.
paper.
We'd have 30 kids to a classroom.
Right.
It's, the general public doesn't understand
Right.
that we have to do that. We don't have to buy pencils, we don't have to buy new uniforms, and so we don't. And that's the sad part, is that the general education kids get the shaft all the time.
It's true, and it is sad. So,
I think we're trying to look at that differently and look at everybody together, right? And what we can do so that it's equitable for all of our students, but it is true when you think about one student without the excess cost configuration of $136,000, that would almost cover these two new positions just for one student, right? So, yeah.
Well, and add to that, I mean, because we are that border town, you get that fluctuation, right? Of sometimes back and forth, and it's so, and I think. Like, when you listen in the community, people don't understand this. They just think it's a flat fee, everybody gets the same. It costs us the same to educate every student here, and it's not, and that's the biggest, I think, obstacle is that they don't understand. We have this, and we are, Bill said it, we're obligated to do this.
No, they
We don't have a
just-
choice.
They take the bottom dollar number and divide it by the number of students.
Exactly.
And you can't do that.
So remember the guy, 180,000,
Wasn't that far off.
zero was a little bit.
We need him for a math too.
poor Ted, poor Ted. Oh, Ted's gone now.
It is,
so.
But
That's a good
I
thing.
think a lot of hard work has gone, everybody, a lot of hard work in that department, and then the folks from the Bradley program. They've done a nice job, and they've done a nice job with Chris, bringing in students from other districts, which brings that number down too. But I agree with Chris, you put the wrong student in with a group of students that seem to be working well, and it can just throw that whole dynamic off. And so I like that they take their time and they think about before, it's not about money, it's about doing the right thing for the students first, and then if that child fits, right? But it's nice to have that safety net in district. I will say that.
You're doing right by students, you cannot lose in the end. Stop trying to cut corners, it's gonna bite us in the end, for sure. I know we have a lot of work to do with the budget and my department specifically, and we joke around with one another about it. I take it very personally, it will get fixed. It will get fixed, that's all I can tell you.
Just one other question, Dr. Jones, the 97,709. That was, that's the state reimbursement, the level,
Yes,
that was increased
Yeah.
about 2 years ago, right? Did the reimbursement rate change along with the increase in the level?
No, they raised.
It
I know,
went-
but the
They raised
reimbursement-
I kept it so
Yeah,
I could,
because the,
I think he,
I kept it so I could refer to it.
yeah, because I think, I thought it was in the 70s, right?
So
they raised it.
So the excess cost threshold went up to 97,709. Last year was 91,520. So it went up.
I thought it was like 78 or something.
That was
The year before that, it was 87,000.
Mhm.
Okay,
The year prior to that, it was 82,000.
Yeah.
all right, so there was a big jump one year, the 82 to 87.
82
They're all
to 87.
Pretty big jump. They're all moving, yeah.
Yep,
So-
and then the percentage is down to 76. Last year was 8. The year before that, it was 70. The year before that, it was
All right,
75.
so they are throwing more responsibility back on the town without
Yes.
providing the funding according to their mandates.
Yes.
Okay. Wow,
So again, everybody that complains to the town, they should be complaining to the state.
correct.
Yet, but because we're all local, they can complain to us because we hear them. It's,
So I think that's
it's
another,
the state,
yeah, but that's another thing that we have to provide to our communication subcommittee,
I-
which Heather's noting right now.
Well, I sent you all an email.
Yeah, but
And-
this
And, well, which you provided me, right?
suggested.
Yeah, and I did write.
Yep.
To, well, all, to our two representatives and to May Flexer, who actually sponsored the bill.
Yes,
Was it-
she has one, Senator Gordon has one, multiple senators and House of Representatives have put it in. Because it's an issue that affects not just the smaller districts, it's affecting the entire state.
Correct.
So there are, I think I posted 10 or 15 different ones to somebody who asked me about it on a Facebook page that shall remain nameless. Again, they're in their proposed status, which means it's just a generic, this is what we want the bill to do. Nothing will happen to it until it goes to, and is in discussion in committee, which is why I suggest this is your hill to die on, you need to be reaching out to your state representatives and saying, we need this, however, find a way to fund it, because I don't want my taxes to go up,
Exactly.
however you want to word it.
Exactly.
Because it's an issue that affects everybody.
But this is like a 15 or 16% increase.
Mhm.
And what was the percentage? It went from,
It's now 76.
and it was what?
80 at one point.
It was 80 a couple of years ago. It was up in the higher 80s a long time ago. It was
Right.
almost
But
90.
if we, yeah, but if we just look at a 5-year, which I think is what we kind of are doing now, so figure 16% increase just in the rate,
Right.
the dollar level.
Well, the dollar level is based on how much you spend per student
Right, yeah.
times 4.5.
But it's a double whammy because they're increasing the
Yeah.
level and then they're.
getting it.
Well, no,
decreasing
but
the
we're
funding.
increasing how much we spend per student.
Right, that's what, the
Yeah.
threshold for reimbursement has gone up
Mhm.
and the reimbursement rate itself has
Gone
gone down.
down, correct.
So
So
that's the
double
big
whack.
spread,
Yeah,
right?
Right, so the spread is
And-
not just 16, it's.
And
Right.
the legislative people have been talking about this for years and years and years.
I know.
And so it's nice that they're bringing it up again, but I don't have much faith that they're gonna do anything with it.
No.
So
But
who's-
it's,
Is this a Rick Hayes, May Flexer?
It is
So-
May Flexer, Senator Gordon. There was, who was the other ones? There were multiple bills sponsored by multiple different people in multiple different groups.
In favor or like what's?
All of it was full reimbursement on special education costs, full reimbursement for transportation costs, reducing the threshold amount. There were other ones on increasing the Alliance grants fundings, renewing Alliance grant fundings. There was a lot that was introduced in the last
I
month.
think Representative Gordon was in favor of increasing the ECS grants. Yeah, and that's his approach to it. They all have different approaches, like the Republicans are in favor of doing, they're in favor, it's a bipartisan type. Initiative, but they're all coming at it from
But
different.
they're not agreeing on how to do it.
Yeah,
And-
right.
And frankly, when special ed came out, the federal government was supposed to do it 100%.
exactly.
Right,
And
it's
that
only,
is-
And they've never funded it more than 18.5% to the states.
So.
So we're not alone.
No.
No.
That's, it feels like sitting here, sitting in this room, it feels like we in Thompson are alone with our 24% student body doing this and the cost. It feels like we're alone, but obviously we're not.
Well, we are kind of, it's the other side of the state, some of their reimbursement is 110%.
I was just
They're
gonna
getting
say,
more than they need. If you go through their data,
Mhm.
on the Gold Coast, they're getting much more than we could ever hope for. 110% when we're getting 70%,
And they've got the money.
and they've got the money.
Yeah.
It's wrong. It's wrong.
Why?
Because they have-
Fluke in the formula.
Yeah.
They have bigger voices in Hartford, that's all.
Between that and there, it's easier for them too, to just outsource their students, so they're taking advantage of that as well, because they have the funding to be able to do so. While smaller districts that are making those strides to bring in a least restrictive classroom get punished because we're not hitting the reimbursement rate either. So
Yeah,
So it's, you know, it's hard because, and also our demographics, I emphasize all that in my letter to all of them. We've got a lot of people in town. One, we live in the northeastern section of the state, you know, the forgotten corner.
East of the river.
We don't have the services to begin with here.
Definitely don't have the transportation.
Anywhere you want to go to get services, you got to drive a car.
Yep.
And two, our demographics, especially in Thompson, are aging. And they rely, and it isn't, this is, you know, they rely on, a lot of them rely on their retirement income. And their homes. We don't have the industry in town to support a tax base. So it's all property taxes that are covering this. And you know, I feel for them, but we also have to support our schools. We need to invest in our schools. So it's
Right,
hard.
because somebody supported them when their kids were in school.
Yep.
And every generation needs to do that. And I feel badly about it too, when they're all on fixed incomes. However, the reality of the situation is everything goes up.
Yep.
And everybody needs to pay their fair share.
It's true. And when you guys were here in school, somebody supported
Right,
your
exactly.
education.
Yep.
And somebody supported my education. So that's the truth of it. We're a community and we have to work. As a community. Okay,
so the final department, but not the least department. I'm gonna turn it over to Greg. He's gonna talk a little bit about security from his perspective. And then Bill, you might want to chime in about that transfer at the bottom there. So Greg, you're on.
So I'm gonna tread lightly on my explanations of situations, because I don't like to put a lot of that information out there, our pros and our cons. But what I did is I created a handout for all of you. I don't want to put it out there, but
it's a pretty big.
the volume and the activity. Okay, and then we'll get to the
That's a lot bigger than just a handout.
well, you can take your time through your
Thank you for the big print for us
well, I didn't do it.
that have fading eyesight.
My individual on evenings does it for me. Oh,
And this is, and
You
I'll
Need
get
another
to it.
pen.
I'll get
do not worry. I'm sure you'll give me.
okay, this is just
It's all right, leave him alone.
So,
time.
as you see in my section, the shirts, I'm not worried about that, but yes, an increase would be great.
Oh,
The line item of thanks. we're not gonna go down that road. All right, anyways, on a professional end of it, thanks, Nate. I want to talk about the crossing guards, or safety staff that are out there. Currently, I am taking them in my budget. I'd like, which takes away from my staffing levels, right? Evening, I mean, we all agree that this compound is pretty massive, correct? We're all agreeing with that. We've already talked about doors and the budget and all that other stuff. It is a massive compound. Evenings. That's what I have on evenings. Now, currently, myself and another individual who have, I think Tommy's seen us numerous times, we've talked about it briefly. Assist him in covering positions, okay? So what that does is that creates a gap for me. And exposes a lot of other areas if we did not do that.
They come back, by the way, volunteering at night.
So, but I'm in a good spot in my life, and so is this individual. So, my kids are older, so it allows me that free time to do that, interact with the students as well. I think that's more of a positive than paying myself or someone else to do that. But I need to assist on evenings, otherwise it would fail. Again, we agree that it's a massive compound, one person, I don't care what age it is, it's way too much of responsibility to put on that. And that's why myself again, and another individual on occasions are up here 2 to 3 nights a week. It needs to be done. That would be, I would greatly appreciate that if we do go down this road for the line item to be moved over, an additional one, in addition to the security budget, which would allow me to bring another individual on board as well.
So the 24,000 will cover that other individual at night.
Yes, and currently that is estimated 6 hours a day. I would have that individual at night slightly overlap by an hour of start a shift. This way, all areas are covered and the school can be split. And would allow a little bit more flexibility for each individual to do their interior, exterior door checks, room checks, any other issues that may arise, right? So it is a good practice to do that. Right now, currently, it's not good. But I mean, I don't want to get into details. I don't like that. I didn't even like that in my old job, talking to people I wasn't associated with about details of building security and other issues. So I tread lightly on those areas. So if you do have questions for me, I already know what questions you might ask, but maybe reword them slightly so I could actually give you an honest answer.
And you can also come to executive session.
Yes, we
and
could do
fill
that
in on that
next
side.
week or whenever down the road, and I could really get into some details with you as far as the expenditures that
Okay.
we need. And right now, currently, budget wise, good.
All right, if we do have some issues with the budget, security budget, I think we do it best to do it like prior to our meeting or something in executive session. All agree?
So then the final piece is that last workshop, Bill Steglitz received a lot of homework. And he spent some time doing his homework, so he wants to go over it.
Right, and I handed out the current version at the beginning of the meeting. Does everybody have theirs? So in essence, the main drivers of the change from the last version of the budget to currently was the healthcare rate increase to 12% from 10%. We looked at the salary calculation on a position by position basis in a similar method that we had used to calculate benefits. And we added a contingency line into the budget. That's currently at $30,000. You'll see that that's actually in the district-wide budget, which is 906. So all three of those items rolled in. The budget is now at $21.5 million. That's an increase of $1.7 million. over the 2023 budget. And that's an estimated mill rate impact of 2.26 mils. In response to the questions that the board had coming out of the meeting 2 weeks ago now, actually. Dr. Jones outlined the savings of the Bradley program. Bill Birch discussed the list of his potential projects. Heather, you had a request around the Spirit program. Melinda and I are still talking about that. I've got to tell you, though, it's a tough budget.
Yeah.
I know.
That, I just wanted to make sure you knew that wasn't forgotten.
Yeah.
There were a few line-specific questions members of the board had. Looking at line number 97 from last time, special ed instructional supplies, there was a question if that was a duplicate. It's middle school dedicated special ed instruction supplies. I actually spoke to April about this today, Dr. Jones. She mentioned that it's not a duplicate, and those are curriculum, special ed specific curriculum items that middle school staff buy to support special ed kids in that school. It was a small amount of money. I think it was $500. And I think the question really centered on whether or not it's a duplicate, and it's not. Line number 50, high school industrial tech dues and fees. That was a $2,600 increase. Spoke to Mike Joyce today. That's actually fees related to the National Institute for Metalworking. Because the kids now have the option to earn industry recognized certificates, and that's the fee that it costs to do that. I guess that's something that the state, I don't know that it's mandated, but it's strongly encouraged. So that's what's going on there. Middle school general admin travel, it was line 79. It had gone up to $3,000 from $1,500. Spoke to Principal Bernardo about this today, and given how things are trending with the other PD items in the budget, that has since been reduced back to the $1,500, which it was in the prior budget. Line number 349 was contract transportation. I checked that amount. Is Kathleen, that was your question, and it now includes regular transportation, midday, and the bus monitors.
What line is that, please?
349.
In the old budget, I'm not sure if it's still.
No, the numbers are different in this one.
Some things by a lot around.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of moving parts.
Okay, 349.
It would be
I got it,
367.
367, I got it.
I believe that addresses all of the comments, all the takeaways that I had from the last BOE budget meeting.
And Heather, on the incentive program, thinking about the theater being self-sustaining, hoping that program could be that way. Their next year's money, not this year's money for Title IV there is a criteria that it can be put towards social emotional. And that kind of falls under that same umbrella. So hopefully maybe we can tap into Title IV next year. We get about maybe 8,000 or 9,000. So that might be where we write that program in.
How much do you see this program costing? Like,
Well, so we're doing quarterly incentives for the students. I mean, the first one was something that we got given to us.
Yep.
So that was fine. The last one was costly. I mean, Heather did and Brian did donate the box seats to the Celtics, which paid for the trip to the movies for the next incentive. The third one, we are looking at the kids want to go to a Woo Sox game. So I have actually connected with someone there, and they are thinking about either donating or giving us 100 tickets at a reduced rate. So, and then we're trying to put together a prom package, which Valentine's helping me with, and Danielle will soon be. Just trying to get donations to put together a little prom package. And then at the end of the year, once again, the Santos family is donating box seats to the Red Sox for the end of the year. So we've noticed since this last outing, there's an uptick in interest with the students. So hopefully we're able to get those Blue Sox tickets, and that'll be great.
What do you think we would need? And I'm just, my mind's going. You know, trying to think of, okay, what can we do for fundraisers to help assist?
Yeah, I would say between 6,000 and 10,000.
6,000, okay.
What we're trying to encourage is kids to participate, you know, in after-school activities, coming to a game, even if they're not an athlete, cheering on their peers, trying to get that spirit uplifted. Now that there's a little bit more of an incentive, maybe we'll get more kids participating in games. We'll see at the halftime show on the 1st and the 7th. We have a little halftime show going on, and maybe we'll get our students out. I know there's an interest in the student body for one particular dance routine.
I heard something about that. I'll be there to see it, right? I did hear a little something.
Mr. Angelo's son was the teacher of record for the intercession dance. And so therefore, he somehow got caught up in the routine. So
Just like Dad.
An extremely tough budget year.
extremely. I've been doing this for over 40 years. It's the most challenging yet, only because there's no place to go within the budget to cover some of those grant positions, right? Usually there's something somewhere. And Bill and I have looked and looked and looked, and it just isn't.
I'd like to say this is extremely tough year. And once again, the only Board of Finance member that could be bothered to join us is Mr. Herbert. So I thank you for being here.
Here, here.
And I don't see any of them on Zoom. I
No.
see Suzanne on Zoom. Thank you for listening. But the rest of the Board of Finance, it's shameful. This is the biggest spend in the town. And Steve is here to better understand our budget and how it works. And the other 5 can't be bothered. It's disgraceful. And you can write that into the minutes because I've had it with them.
I wrote it to the villager, so.
Bill, the same thing with the big meeting in the auditorium. It was just 2 people. It's such huge things come out of that, like where people are thinking, what they're thinking about, and you're exactly right. Nobody cares other than the 2 that were there that night. Thank you, Steve, for being there.
He's the captain.
And
of
I'm
audience.
sorry.
He's gotta go.
I agree 100% with you, Bill, on that too. Danielle here. I'm listening and I'm dealing with some allergy stuff, but I reached out to the Board of Finance in regards to Prop 6022 as well. And Steve was the only one to reach out to me in support of it and reaching out to representatives and senators. And I did hear back from Gordon and Flexer, did not hear back from Hayes on that. But I think tonight's meeting was super productive. I wish I could have been there. But I'm like super puffy and not feeling good, but great meeting.
Thank you, Danielle. We do need to talk about when we're gonna have our next meeting. February 20th is a holiday, also February vacation. And we need to start pulling together a presentation. I would like some time to review these numbers. Thank you for putting in our projected spending for this year, because that also gives us a benchmark, knowing that, of course, this year inflation may carry through to next year, but that's the number I like to bounce things off of. So we can't meet February 20th unless everybody wants to come in on a holiday, which I doubt.
Not a holiday for me.
Yeah, I won't.
I
be
mean,
here
it's
on the
fine with me. I'm used to that, but.
I'm
you know,
away.
Get that approved by the board.
So. We need to find that date, and then I would like to set up one provisional meeting if we need to have it. So I'd like to set up dates for 2 more meetings.
What's the deadline? We have to have it back to the
I
finance.
don't know.
Is it March this year? or-
Yeah, it's March something.
Do you know, Bill?
I don't have my calendar.
When's the town meeting? Is it March 2nd?
This is Amy St. Ange. It's March 2nd.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll have to have it done by the end of February.
I didn't
Oh, we
see-
do
I
have a
didn't see
meeting
it.
set up for February 27th. So that would be the last meeting.
You want to have one in between.
Yes. If not 2,
Oh, it's-
2 meetings, because we missed one. There's no day next week that we could meet. Possibility,
We have.
but
Next
you know,
Wednesday, we have,
poor Bill has got to do the town too, you know,
Bill, when are your meetings with the town? Or,
usually after.
They are, our next one, help me out again, Amy.
Gladly. We have February 6th,
Right.
February 15th, February 22nd. Tentatively, we're looking at the 24th, 27th, and 28th to finalize everything.
so Amy, the meeting on February 6th, what time is that meeting?
That's gonna be a late one. That's gonna go 3 until 9.
Okay,
I know we had and I realized later that it was the Turtle Lot Trust.
which is
But-
okay. You want me to reschedule our trust meeting to a different night?
If we could
We're gonna lose 2.
maybe the next night I have a Board of Selectmen meeting, so maybe
The 8th,
the 8th, but then there's the building committee meeting. So it would have to be shooting for maybe 7 o'clock, maybe
On the 8th?
on the 8th, because the building committee meeting meets.
All right, let me-
That's not the annual.
You seem to miss those anyways, so.
Or I hate to say it, the 9th, it's a Thursday. There's no meetings that day.
All right, let me check with Weiss and Hale and Zahansky, and we'll see what we can do, either the 8th or 9th.
Okay,
Ninth preferably, right? Because there's nothing.
correct, yes. And I apologize again, I wasn't thinking.
could we then squeeze in,
No problem.
do you have anything on the 8th?
Where do you have those meetings?
Just the building committee meeting.
We're gonna have it here. What about?
No, I'm talking to him on the night, the
The
night.
Turtle Lot Trust.
Because
is
I'm
on
gonna
the
be up in
6th
the
now. Why couldn't we do it on the 6th?
for,
We could do it on
So I want to
the
make
6th.
sure you're not up there, okay.
Yep. Could we do it on the 6th? Next Monday.
Well,
Next
that's-
Monday, we could have a budget meeting on the 6th.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Yes.
Let's do a budget meeting on the 6th
At 6.
and then.
6, yeah.
I'll be on Zoom for that one.
Do we need to do an executive session on that for security?
Meetings I have to go.
No, I was thinking of having one before our Board of Ed meeting.
Kathleen, quick
Yes.
question on the meeting on the 27th. What time is that one?
That'll be 6.
6 as well? Okay. Just to make sure.
Yeah, we'll do our budget meetings at 6 p.m.
Okay.
And then on the 27th, we've already scheduled one. Can we squeeze one in in the middle?
Between the 6th and the 27th?
Yeah. How about the 22nd? Are you back on the 22nd? I'm back on the 22nd. I know that's Ash Wednesday, but
This
Okay.
is February, correct? We're talking?
yeah, February 22nd,
Thank you.
Feb 22nd. Does that fit with everybody? That's a Wednesday night.
What is that one gonna be?
That'll be another budget
It's a
meeting.
budget one,
I know. Huh?
That's a button. Well, Val was asking what it is.
Yeah,
same time.
I-
so-
Yeah.
I can do the 22nd, but I can do the 6th and the 27th.
Just in case anybody didn't know, the 22nd is also the RTC meeting where Mr. Gordon is supposedly going to be present.
Pardon me?
The 22nd is the RTC, the Republican Town Committee
Oh,
meeting.
yeah, no, can't do
Yes.
that. Gotta go to that. Hey, we've missed too many of those. Okay, can't do that one. How about Thursday, the 23rd?
I can't do that. I'm on another board.
But yeah, I have another board meeting.
The 21st.
Oh, science meeting is that one.
I-
It's get tight.
About Thursday, Wednesday, the 15th. Oh, you have the governance cause.
We good?
Kathleen?
Huh?
You said one on 2/6 for the next
Yeah, 2/6. Bill can't be here. I think he's got the town meeting.
town.
Is that okay?
That's their town
Idea?
budget.
What town meeting?
Oh,
Oh,
their
budget. Oh, their budget. Oh, yeah.
At night?
No,
I
that
thought- I
won't
thought
work.
they always-
If we need him.
3 to 9. Oh.
Oh, that's right, 3 to 9. Okay, we can't do that
We're
one.
not doing the 6th either.
Maybe we should ask Bill what dates.
Yes,
he
what
has.
dates are you available? Deb? Yeah, just send us some dates.
So 2/6 is out, right? You're just gonna do
For
it,
now,
so I don't-
yeah.
We're not gonna finish this with only one meeting.
Right.
We need at least 2 more meetings.
Do you want us to start to try to compile a presentation draft?
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, I think if you follow along the lines of last year a little bit, that'll.
Yeah, but we're trying to condense it.
Condense
Yeah,
it,
no,
yeah.
but,
Yeah,
You know,
budget highlights.
it's a
for each
highlight.
department.
It's- it
we
wasn't-
need at least 2 more meetings. And we're just not coming up with a
Work on
date.
that.
Well, we got the
Tomorrow morning.
15th, right, is one.
No.
No,
No,
They changed.
No,
oh, we changed the 15th again?
We have none right now.
right now we just have the
Okay.
27th.
Okay.
That's the only
27th, and we just, we can't do
We
it.
can add that in here now.
Have a meeting on the 27th.
Unfortunately, my calendar is on my laptop.
Okay, well, send us some dates. We need at least 2 more meetings, if not 3.
All right.
I can do any evening but Wednesdays. If it falls on Wednesday, I will have to bow out, but please
I-
don't plan according to that.
Yeah, we understand. What's the matter with everybody there?
Forget my invites, I just sent everybody.
You're gonna recall them all.
Well, that one's the
I already
town, that one's
replied.
definitely. happening.
Yeah.
It'll be changing by tomorrow.
Okay.
Trying to get things done now.
All right. We'll try to wrap this up tomorrow when you get to your calendar, Bill, okay?
Sorry about that.
Kathleen, just for the record, my comments earlier were Tom Angelo endorsed comments, not comments made by this board.
Okay, I understand, but I'm trying to keep,
No, I
you
just.
from going off on tangents. That's my job as a chair.
Everybody know it. My comment, not a
Oh,
board
what?
reflection.
Oh, citizens comment, sorry, we were making.
There's a
All right.
chat on the thing.
All right, Steve has a citizens comment.
Just regarding class size, is there a, obviously, I guess the smaller class size the better, but is there a standard that is used that is acceptable? Help me out here, or is there not? I'm
Well-
always fall for that.
So there's all sorts of research around class size. Anything 15 or less is ideal, right? But obviously, most school districts don't operate with that. It can range anywhere. We could do an analysis of what the class sizes are in the area just to get a picture. 22 to 27 seems acceptable. But if you ask a kindergarten teacher, she would tell you something very different. And the thing about our classrooms, especially at the middle school, you put 27 bodies in a classroom, those rooms are small. So now students are on top of one another and the very issue that we're trying to do is keep kids spaced out, right? So putting more students in those classrooms, while we could do that, it's just that physically those rooms are smaller, especially in the fifth, sixth grade wing. But I could do an analysis over what we currently have. I think that would be something to look at.
Subject matter would make a
Correct.
difference in there too. Whether it's advanced math or art, I'm not putting art down, but it's.
But what if it's a science lab? We got 27 kids in there with this,
Bunsen burners.
with frogs and.
It's like 14 or 15 is
Yeah,
ideal.
one, but he doesn't want to be recognized.
So we're getting close to double that.
Well, research has always said 15 or less is ideal. I don't know a school district yet that
appreciate
can maintain that, but in my experience, they've run from 22 to 27. That's what we have here. You know, my former district did have classes that went up to 32, but then teachers got paid for each additional student that was in their class. Yeah.
Yeah, good luck trying that here.
Budget impact, right? There's a budget impact to it.
On a different matter, on the one sheet, you said you achieved some savings, sounds like it's significant.
Oh, yeah,
Would it offset the cost of it?
probably not in a year's time, but, you know, over the course of several years, I think it probably would. So
That might be something, even though it sounds like an easy thing to drop, maybe it's really worth it. What's the drag race?
You could use the drag race as a fundraiser.
There you go.
On special ed, I'm not sure I understand. How many students, next year compared to this year, are we budgeting for more, less, the same? I'm not sure I understand what we're doing. Bill.
So we are budgeting. In the past, we've looked ahead, or at least last year, it seemed we looked ahead. Initially, there was a thought to add to in condition, in anticipation rather of folks coming in. My understanding is this year, Chris has looked at the numbers, he's looked at where kids are and aging out. And they've decided not to add additional spots this year because there are two individuals who will be aging out. So in essence, those are being used as the ads, if you will.
So, and I know we're budgeting dollars, not people, but nevertheless, so we're saying it's not gonna increase. Is that right? Is that
Right,
right?
the head count would increase.
Because when last year we looked at it, and maybe this year it's gone flat or even down, sounds like. But in the 3 or 4 years prior to that, it went up every year.
Right.
You might remember. So saying that next year is going to be flat, that's a hope more than maybe.
I think it's a hope.
That's my guess.
A hope that I think, and Chris, please jump in if I'm off. It's bolstered by looking at the numbers and knowing for a fact, as I said earlier today to someone, those birth dates aren't gonna change for those kids. We know that they're gonna now, we obviously can't control who may move in,
Right.
but we do know that we at least have those.
Yeah, a couple people aging out.
Right.
So if, in the few years that I've been sitting in these meetings, both as a member and as an audience person, it's, oh, well, it's been 23 this year, but we can only afford to put in the budget 21. And well, that's all we can do. And, but so if we're at 24 and we're sticking at 24, that's a, really, it seems like it's a positive step in the right direction because we're not taking any away because the Board of Finance says, well, 21's all we're gonna give you. So it seems like with some evidence-based information, we're able to hold steady on that number.
The squeeze is still on though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, as soon as one.
I
comes in,
understand that.
We're already.
Right.
But I think we got a better handle on contracted services and we put the appropriate dollar amount that we've been spending every year, which we didn't capture in previous budgets. So that contracted services actually helps kids stay in district, right? And so, but that number has gone up and we never budgeted for it appropriately.
Right.
But in the past, it always trended up, like maybe 1 or 2 a year. So that was the board here. I remember maybe 3 or 4 years ago. We said, let's add 2. But that in the spirit of transparency, we decided this is the number we know. Be it 24, we're gonna budget that 24. So that was our decision not to go up at that time. Now. In retrospect, was that right or not? But at least they couldn't take it away from us.
Any other comments?
No reflection on the staff, the school. I think their hearts are in the right place, their efforts are fantastic. But we're one of the poor performing districts in the state. We're in the bottom 10 or something like that.
We are.
In the bottom 10 in the state. Boy, what are we gonna do? to Change that. We can't be in the bottom 10. That's terrible. That is terrible. And again, no reflection on the staff. I can't imagine a better staff. But my God, what are we?
So
They hit the math interventionist and the dean or whatever we call it. Sounds like you gotta do those and whatever else you need to do to get us out of the bottom 10. That is horrible to me. I
Steve,
don't understand. That's not acceptable.
Thank you.
you're right. The budget here has been like a shell game. When we came to district, we knew we had to add reading teachers. The board was very supportive of adding more reading teachers. We didn't have reading specialists up at the middle school, and we knew we had students, right, that couldn't read on grade level. And so you had to sacrifice something else to get those reading teachers. So we cut here to get here. And we've been playing that shell game for 6 years, at least that I know of, and I'm sure many years before I even came. But now it's to the point where there's no other wiggle room to move things around anymore, because the positions that we currently have, we must maintain. Plus, as we hear from our principals, we still need more support. And that's the sad state of affairs. I think what happened over the years is that you had to meet a budget. Classroom teachers are essential. Guidance counselors, social workers, those kinds of things had to go so that we could maintain the classroom teachers and keep decent class sizes. But now everything seems to be coming to a head. It's the most frustrating position to be in, because I can't figure out where else to cover those 4 grant positions that we really can't do away with. And so hence you have a budget that is the highest I've ever presented. And I don't know how to fix it.
Well, I'd rather fix the school than fix the budget.
Thank you. You are 16% of the Board of Finance, sir. And if the other 84% would show up and understand the budget, whether they agree with it or not, at least a working understanding would be very, very helpful than other just looking at a number and saying, no, I don't want I want a 0 mil increase. And that's how we got into this position. And you understand that, and we understand that. And just something needs to be fixed in that regard. And I think my feeling of the overall town vote, if the people were to come out to vote, it would pass, but you have the no's on. You're always going to have those no's that want that 0%. But I think the Board of Finance has an outsized majority of people that just want a 0% increase, and it's just not attainable because we've been kicking the can down the road. And so.
Well, that's exactly it, kicking the can down the road, because we're now at a point where as taxpayers, we're paying for a school system that is in the lowest 10 school systems in the state. Like, for me as a parent, it's mortifying, but also as a taxpayer, that I would want my tax dollar to represent an investment in the town and in the school system. And I just don't think taxpayers see that. Like, we're investing our tax dollars, our hard-earned tax dollars, in an underperforming school, not in a bad way, but it's underperforming because we didn't want to give up our tax dollars. It's on us. And we as our taxpayers and townspeople need to take accountability of that. Our inability to fund the school properly has gotten us here. And this is where we knew we were all going to end up. And it's definitely come to a head, but we also have to wrap our minds around that our lack of investment and our continuing of wanting to not invest in has gotten us here. Our tax dollars are funding one of the lowest performing school systems, and where are we going to take accountability for that?
But it's not impossible. 23 years ago, Suzanne and her parent group put through the largest tax increase in like 40 years here. But it was an awful lot of work, an awful lot of meetings, an awful lot of teaching and educating people, and people understood, and they supported it. That's what we need. We need to teach the people or explain to them the needs.
That was
And
TPQE, right?
Yep.
that was when Blake was just born, so it was.
I agree 100% with you, Bill, on that.
But we also fail to recognize we're in a town over the last 40 years that has not grown a tax base. We can't educate children on residential properties only. And I'm not saying huge industries, but we're not keeping up with pulling in tax dollars that can support our community. And that is something, as coming from somebody that like I said, I'm 5th generation, my kid's 6th. I've seen it. When we went, you did have industry, we don't have the bakery anymore. We have nothing from the mills whatsoever. We can't just do it on very small businesses. You just can't support it. You can't, the rising cost of education are not supported by just home taxes and car taxes. I honestly feel we need to have some type of economic person pulling in some things that are going to support the dollar. I know at one meeting I asked Rainey, can you tell me how much dollars from industry have basically shrunk in the last 40 years? It's going to be huge.
Down to, I think it's one, Amy, or Bill, maybe but last I had heard, we're at 1.8% of our tax revenue comes from industry. Is that right?
It was less than 3%,
Yeah,
whatever.
it was less,
1.4.
I had heard 1.8 or something, yeah,
Won't change next year.
right,
No,
So
but I mean, yeah.
homeowners are gonna have to pony up, in my opinion.
And you
I
add
don't
to
know
that,
nobody wants to, but if you wanna have a decent school, it doesn't come free.
no, the education does not come free.
So I want to simplify this for everybody, and for those that are listening on Zoom. I'm gonna keep it real short. Since my new position here, I've watched the frustration. But although frustrated, positive attitudes from all the principals, vice principals, Chris Jones, Melinda, as well as Bill Burke. People, the can't be kicked down the road anymore. It fell in a storm drain. There's nothing left to kick. Now, I don't live in this town anymore, but I grew up in this town. There was pride in this town. There was love in this town. There was community. Now, maybe it has changed, and I really haven't been much in this town other than visiting my father and coming to work here or passing through to visit with some friends. But the dynamic of this town has changed. And those that vote no on this budget, kids are suffering at the end of the day. Not you, the kids are. When I grew up, it was a little nicer. I grew up with Tommy. We have a responsibility, or you as townspeople have a responsibility to the kids. Like when you were kids, townspeople had a responsibility to you. That's how it works. We don't dismiss because our kids aren't going to school anymore. We don't dismiss the fact that you don't want to pay taxes higher than 0 anymore. You need to do it. It's real simple, people. There's no can to kick down the road anymore. Everything in this school is suffering. I see it, and I'm embarrassed. I'm actually saddened by it. I talk to my fiance about it all the time. The craziness that happens here it just blows my mind. Now, yes, times have changed. And this thing right here has changed individuals. But it's sad, and it's kind of depressing. That's pretty much all I gotta say about it.
And it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. We need to take responsibility for our community, our schools, no matter what the cost. Yeah, we pay some more to property taxes until we can bring in some, more small industry that will help ease the burden. And we've been saying that for years. Putnam was able to do it. Putnam was able to change with the times. They brought in, the antique business, and then that faded. They brought in their restaurants, and they've been changing, and they continue to change. Their First Fridays, they have an active activities or whatever Delpha Berry's title was. Now she's retired. Let's see if they keep it up, but they're an active town. They have a small business base that keeps them supports that activity, and hopefully Thompson can bring in a person or has a person that can continue to help us do that. And where's our farmers market? We've done an agricultural council committee. Where's our farmers market? I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
Oh, welcome. This room.
Well, that would be the natural thing for us to do. When you go to the Board of Finance meeting, and you know that you and maybe one other person have come to these meetings, what is the general feel for that? I mean, do these guys even care? Because I can tell you, when I was in that town meeting, I just was floored that there's two people in one of the biggest meetings that the town could have on a referendum and big money stuff for the town, and nobody in the Board of Finance, other than yourself, and I think Rob Mann was there, cared enough to even come. And that to me is where things, we've got to come together as these tri-board meetings you keep reading about. Pomfret has, Putnam has, Woodstock has. I mean, those are the things the gears can't keep turning when you got one gear turning and the other one still. The whole thing cannot run on everybody autonomously operating on their own agendas.
We used to have that, Val, until the old Board of Finance chair said it's a waste of time, and he wouldn't do it anymore. We had those for 3 years in a row, I think.
We tried to get everybody on the same thinking, the same.
The State of the Union.
Yeah, exactly. State of the Union. Meeting of the minds. Right.
It was like a pre-budget meeting, and everybody went off and did their budget with the same focus, or at least everybody had their input into here with this.
Or some understanding of the difficulties we're all facing,
Right.
whether it be a track or positions or a dump truck or whatever it might be. Let's all do this together. But
Didn't work, I think, because the Board of Finance has this narrow scope where their job is to keep the mill rate at the lowest increase they can possibly keep it.
they always say they want to present a budget, but they don't present a reasonable budget. Because 0 is not reasonable.
No.
And they got to get out of that thinking. And for them to have that power to say, yes, we're going to do this, or no, we're not going to do that. It's the town. The town needs to decide this, not that six
I agree.
man.
100%. Their job is to present the budget for what the town needs. In the best interest of the citizens of this town.
Agreed.
So, there.
But they're not gonna hear it because they're not listening.
So where do we go from here? I mean, we're looking at, what'd you say, 2.26 mill rate?
Yeah.
Just on our side?
Yeah, that add the town to that.
I mean, and.
Because the town has critical needs also.
Well,
You've got roads that are falling apart. You've got
Bridges that
Well,
were
plus
never.
remember, this doesn't even count what we're looking for a building committee for improvements.
right.
But that has nothing to do with school. So we have to make sure that stays very separate, because one of the Board of Finance members already made the comment, well, you better not come and ask me for any more money in your budget.
Yeah.
Because if there's the improvements that Amy, the only select person we've had in years with the foresight to take care of what we already own. She's the only one that's done this, just to improve the safety and the town-owned buildings. And for them to say that is, that's totally irresponsible.
Right, that had an impact, I think, of like 1 point something mill rate, do you know, Bill?
For all three projects,
Yeah,
if we did all three initially, the mill rate impact 0.8.
0.8, all right, so you got 0.8 there, you got 2.2 from us, so that's 3, not counting what the town side is. And what else is there, am I missing one other thing?
No, those are here's the things.
Town usually comes in low, they'll be 0.5 or 0.6.
I mean, it's just
Well, hey,
sucks.
well, yes, but you can't keep the mill rate at a 0.25, 0.5 increase over the last 10, 12
Right.
years.
I agree. Yep.
Especially with the inflation going up, but we had these charts that showed how the school never actually even came close to beating inflation over the past 6, 7 years. So how are you supposed to operate? I mean,
Exactly. This is us catching up. Sorry, Kathleen.
we never have an opportunity to even come close, like the year that our insurance went up 400,000. And they cut us 200,000 in that line, not quite in that line, but they cut us over 200,000.
And at the meeting in the meeting at the auditorium. There was a lot of comments that were made on how can you let this have happened under your watch?
I know.
And every year we put in $144,000 for a new bus.
Oh, yeah.
Year after year
Year
after
after
year.
year.
And we did put stuff in there for repairs
Mhm,
and they were cut.
mhm.
So,
And then
before
you have
there's
buses
stones
that
being
did
thrown,
run.
you gotta look at the facts.
That was the first thing they would cut. We put in for 2
Always get
buses, they cut a bus. If we put in for 1 bus, they cut the bus.
Right, so it did not go without thought and budget. I just want to be very clear. The Board of Education did put it out there, but it was cut. CUT, year after year.
Oh, you passed the spelling bee.
I did. Not gonna do the math, but I'll do the spelling.
And by the way, I went to the spelling bee and it was a lot of fun.
I thought it was canceled.
No,
No, the snow date she canceled the snow date after the fact.
Oh.
We didn't need the snow date.
Okay. I thought it was canceled. I'm sorry.
but it was a lot of fun. It was cute. I encourage you to go next year.
Lily will be coming to the next BOE meeting. She's a 5th grader. So she beat out the older students, so that was always, that's fun.
Good at math.
Maybe, good. Okay,
Oh,
any other
There's
comments?
a comment in the chat on Zoom that's
Oh,
been hanging
She
there
doesn't
for a
want to
while.
be recognized. She's
Okay.
not even online anymore.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Then I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
No, John.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi. Good night, everyone.